Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Sal Vetri here, and today we're going to be breaking down a weekend Saturday League of Legends slate, the 5 games, the China and South Korea, the Asian leagues, 5-game slate, 50K to first once again. I know I'll have questions about the Brazilian league that was just added. It's the first day of it. There's no huge prize pools. It's like 2K to first outside of if you want to play a $2,600 entry tournament to try and win 10,000, but it's like 2K to first. Once that gets bigger, I'll cover it more, especially once these other leagues start to die down a little bit because of the playoffs. I'll cover that a little bit more for sure. Easily projectable from the stats that I was able to see, but not today. I'm not going to be covering it on YouTube for $2,000 to $5,000 to first contest when there's 50K to first contest going on in the sport itself in League of Legends, and there's like 15 to 20K contests going on in golf and CSGO. I did make a CSGO video today, so depending on when you're watching this, there's a good chance it's already over, but it starts in the afternoon. There's a 2-game slate that starts at 3:30 p.m. East Coast time, so if you've already missed the starting slate for the 3-game slate at noon, you can check out the 3:30 slate. Definitely urge you to check that out for sure. That is CSGO. Every single day I cover it. People ask me, but it's over on Patreon only. But I've decided to make a video today. The projections are in the video too, which is not something I'll usually do, but it should help you out a ton when making lineups. But yes, 5-game slate while we're here. Welcome once again if you're returning. I appreciate it. If you have not yet hit that subscribe button on the podcast and or YouTube channel, take a few seconds and do so. We're like 50 away from 20,000. Let's get the extra urge today, and maybe somehow we can get there today. I really do appreciate the help there. And also hit the notification bell while you are indeed at it. I do this every single day because I love doing it. I love covering daily fantasy sports, love just using Excel and Google Sheets. So thanks for being here, everybody. If you want to support my exclusive content, I'm an independent content creator. You can do so over on Patreon. That's linked down below. Every single esport with rankings, projections, all of that is available over there, as well as NBA projections, the ENBA projections as well, which, yes, it is a projectable sport. I'll have the Outlaw Tour data sheets as well over there. Check all that stuff out. And if you do like League of Legends and you want to take your game to the next level, I made a course. The course, you can find out how to get it for free at the top of the description below. Not only the basics do I talk about how to even try and project ownership for yourself. I talk about, which is a huge money saver for a lot of people. I talk about ownership just in general, the consequences in League of Legends. Talk about, I go through for about 40 minutes through how I set up rules and optimizers and what they all mean. So check out all that stuff. I think it'll help a ton of people, and there's a way that you can get it for pretty much no cost. So that's linked at the top. So yeah, let's get into this slate. I will urge out that there's been people that have been commenting saying that they are dissatisfied when a player or a team that I think looks good early on does not do well. First of all, there's a lot of variance in these sports. It is a highly projectable sport compared to most DFS sports, but there is going to be variance, right? Vegas odds are going to be beaten. Otherwise, if they were never beaten 100% of the time, there would be nobody playing them. They are going to be a median outcome average, similar to what projections are. So there's that one. But then two, also, you have to keep in mind that we are recording these videos 20 hours before lock, before we even have lineups. So take it easy, young fella. But starting with the top lane right now, I guess the best way to put this is whenever I have interest in a player, it's because I probably have interest in their stack early on. Once I do the projections and see lineups later on and see ownership, a lot of that stuff starts to change. Most of the time, I'll have ownership to every single stack on the slate if I play 150 lineups, but I do try and frame these videos in a way that the people who are playing 1 to 10 lineups, which is most people, get value out of it. So starting at the top, you have RNG, who was just the absolute loser the other day at minus like 800 favorite once the lock came around. Had a lot of RNG, most owned stack that day, and they get absolutely upset, swept 2-0, so no chance of coming back from that one. They're the biggest favorite by far. They're the only favorite that cracks like minus 250, and they're at minus 1,111. That's probably a soft line, so it moves a little bit, but it's not going to move all that much. So yeah, laying X at the top for 7,200. When you're 7,200 and E-Star is a minus 217 favorite, who averages similar kills, about one assist more per contest, is $7,000, but not nearly as secure against Team Wii. Yeah, laying X is going to be interesting at 7,200. If I am paying up for a top lane, it's going to be laying X over Zayube for E-Star every single time there. But I do think that the opposite side of E-Star, Team Wii, is going to be hard to ignore again. I get it. E-Star is a very good team, especially if you're just looking at win-loss record. As a complete team, sure, they have the best win percentage on the slate at a top laner for Zayube, but it's really hard to ignore Team Wii on this slate. So Morgan at top lane as just a plus 163 slight underdog. Morgan on this slate, out of all the starters, is tied for second for the most kills. Out of all the starters, is right now tied for virtual tie for second for the most assists, only behind the opponent Zayube on the other side. So this is a very good spot for Team Wii. We'll just see what the ownership looks like. Now, normally I think that Team Wee, if they indeed win, is going to probably be in a winning lineup a high percentage of the time because of their cheap price points and their huge ceilings, especially at AD carry and mid lane with Teacher Mom and Jae Ming. So I think they're going to be interesting, but I think they're also going to be highly owned because of that. They'll be like your 5th to 7th most expensive player on most of these positions, and that's going to lead to some ownership. Doesn't mean a ton of ownership, but it might be 14-15% stack ownership with really projected points-wise in a victory, that being undervalued, but in a loss, obviously it being way overvalued. So I do think Team Wee's in play. RNG at the top as a huge favorite. That seems like a very solid stack today. Take Team Wee as the underdog. Filter in the rest of your lineups with an RNG or an OMG, wherever you feel secure with a victory there. But I think that might actually start to pick up some ownership, but we'll get to see. So Laying X, Morgan stand out a good amount there from top lanes to start. They're not a priority position for me, so we don't have to break too deep into that. Getting into the mid lane now, this is where you start to have just killer players. Like Teacherma is $6,800 today as a mid laner who, in a victory, will probably score 85 points or more, or as we've seen lately, 100 plus points. So yeah, at 6,800, I have a lot of interest in Teacherma. Leads the slate in assists, second in kills, only behind E-Star's Crying on the opposite side of that game. So Teacherma stands out right away at $6,800. Going to continue to start over Plex unless we see something weird happening there. Crying all the way up at the top for 8,200. If you're not building lineups where you think Team Wee wins, well then yeah, E-Star's Crying at 8,200. You're going to have to prioritize it, but leads the slate in pretty much every meaningful category. Win percentage as a mid lane, kills, assists, second in deaths per contest, second in damage percentage of all these mid lanes. So that's going to be a spot that I think is completely fine to start to target. If you want to look at some other potential upsets in terms of the opposite side of this one, Yuki, I believe it's pronounced. If I'm wrong there, I apologize. People also critiquing the pronunciation. I'm sorry. I did not take, I took Italian for a year and Spanish for 2 years. I did not take any other languages with Asian descent on them, but LGD, if you think LGD has more upsets, which they've been having a ton of lately in them against OMG today, Yuki at 6,400 is a very strong option at the top lane position. Another player who in a victory as just a slight plus 179 underdog can definitely get you there. So there's definitely underdogs. Most of these underdogs are live. APK is only a plus 106 underdog, so there's a lot of live underdogs today. I think that Yuki, I think that Teacherma are the best underdog options from the mid lane that have a ton of points upside if they win. And then I think that you can go up to Crying up top, Icon from OMG, depending on which side of those games that you do indeed like. Heading over to support players now, we have some decently priced support players, 2 at 6K or above, which is kind of that threshold for they're starting to get expensive at $6,000 for your lineups. Shy UC for E-Star, minus 217 favorite. I'm not going to say by far the best player on the slate at this position, but by far, pricing-wise, price like it, 10.3 assists per contest. That does lead the slate, but it's a tie for the lead with Missing on the opposite side. So both of the support players in the E-Star versus Team Wee game are going to have a virtual tie for the most assists per contest at 10.3. The only difference is for $1,200 less, you get Missing, and also 1.7 kills per contest for SIOC. Missing is averaging 1 kill per contest, which is tied for third out of all the starters. So yet again, Missing at 5,000 stands out a ton. I think it's another great spot to build your 4-man lineups out. Put Missing in there if you think there's a victory. Throw the AD carry in there for a price discount, and then you can still fit in your RNG or your OMG, wherever you're going with that. Shosai and Missing, I think, are the 2 best support players on the entire slate. The issue is you probably can't play them both in the same lineup because they're facing each other. Ming for RNG is a very solid option as well. In victories, Ming will score way more than the average. The average is going to be about 50 points per game for Ming. You're going to see 60-plus point performances out of Ming there. Just average player in terms of assists, in terms of kills, relative to all of the support players on the slate. So RNG, E-Star, Team Wee, they're going to stand out as well. If you want to go down a little bit more, it starts to get harder to find anything that really does stand out. Like if you think RNG just blows this game as huge favorites in back-to-back games, they're going to get destroyed. Lei from Rogue Warriors at least stands out as another player who does pick up kills and a good amount of assists. Third on the slate in assists out of all the starters. Probably not a stance that I'm going to take in this one. So Team Wee's Missing. Cold from OMG is a player that you can always get to as well. Does average a decent amount of kills, is going to be a favorite today. The issue there starts to become the assists upside. Even in a victory, the assists upside can still keep Cold scoring less than 50 points, which is not something that you really want to see out of any of your players in your lineup. AD carry, the meat and potatoes of the slate, if you will. There's going to be fantastic AD carry spots on this slate. You're going to have Wink at the top. So Wink, typically, you're going to see Wink whenever E-Star is a favorite as the most expensive AD carry on the slate because this is a player who can drop 100 with ease in victories. Is going to average over 90 fantasy points per game, and that's mainly in victories. So Wink is going to be a great option. I do think that trying to prioritize lineups around 280 carry on this slate is going to be important. Wink would be that option, one of those two options, if indeed you're playing lineups that don't think Team Wee has the upset and E-Star just takes the game in probably 3 or 2 rounds. Betty is on the slate, so again, tons of great options here. Betty from RNG is on the slate. You're going to get average numbers in terms of kills, assists, not going to die all that often. Betty is probably overpriced more times than not, but when you're a minus 1,111 favorite, it's hard to kind of argue when the price point is 8,000 instead of 7,600. So we're talking a few $100s there. Aiming for KT, we haven't talked much about KT. I do think KT probably goes lower owned, just generally they usually do. Aiming is a player that I find myself getting to a lot, usually as an underdog because the ceiling is huge there. This is a player who leads this slate in damage percentage, leads this slate in kill participation through a very solid sample of 36 games played, pretty much starting every game. The issue is that you're going to get a lot less assists and kills, but a lot of that is going to be pulled down by a ton of losses that KT has had. Now you get the matchup against Sandbox Gaming here, and I do think Aiming actually stands out and deserves this $7,600 price tag. If you don't get a lot of team ownership, and you can check back in on my projections and rankings later, if you're not getting a lot of team ownership for this KT squad because people are going to either go for underdogs or just take the heavy favorites in RNG, ES, OMG even is usually a more popular team than KT, I do think that you can get Aiming in a couple of their players in some mini 3 or even 4-man stacks. The problem is Sandbox Gaming doesn't die all that often. 11.4 deaths per game is actually in the bottom half. It's just the third least on the slate, tied for the third least. So that starts to become an issue with overall kills upside for KT Rollster today. But it still looks pretty decent in my opinion. Also, if you're just trying to look at Team Wee right now is second on the slate, only behind E-Star, their opponent. So the two teams that get the most kills per contest, E-Star 17 per contest and Team Wee 14.8, are playing each other today. Now, on a 5-game slate, I don't think it's optimal to game stack. If this was a 2-game slate, I'd probably say, yeah, just stack that game. But you're going to see probably the winner of that game being in the winning lineups. Probably as simple as that. So yes, get both sides of the E-Star Team Wee. Smiles from ONG. So I would probably really rank this as Wink and Jaeming are going to be my two favorite AD carries. Not in the same line because they're facing each other. Aiming and Betty after that, probably in that order. For the 4 of them, Smiles for OMG, I'll definitely have ownership to. We haven't talked really much about Hanwha Life Esports and really any of their players. They're a minus 141 favorite. I probably like the other side of this with APK Prince, to be completely honest with you. Like today, I would rather roster Hybrid over Vista at AD carry, Hybrid being the slight underdog at plus 106, Hybrid having a ton more upside in terms of 5.2 kills per contest, actually leads this slate for AD carries, 33.3% damage percentage is second on the slate. So I think I'd rather get to a lot of stacks that are the opposite with the slight underdog there. Jungler, once again, broken record. If you usually watch my videos, Jungler is a spot where I don't really prioritize it all that much. I think they're the third best option for your captains, which usually means I don't get to a ton of them in the captain spot, but I'll get to some after I increase the randomness of their position. There are decent junglers, but they're usually priced up, and that's a spot where you just don't prioritize them over mid lane and AD carry, in my opinion. So like Wei for E-Star at 7,400. When you lead the slate by assists by over 2 assists per contest, and you're up there in kills at 2.6, and you play every single game, so it's a really sharp sample, good damage percentage at 14.1% out of the starters, that's like top 3 in the slate. Yeah, it's a spot where I'm going to get to you, but I'm not going to prioritize you if I'm building 1 to 4 lineups. Like I'd rather get my mid lane, my AD carry into an E-Star stack first, and then at that point, you're probably trying to get some cheaper plays in to really build out your lineup. I'd rather have 2 AD carries in my lineup than Wei in my lineup, right? And Wei is going to be usually the price of your second AD carry in your lineup, so it starts to get difficult. Same thing for XLB for RNG. XLB is a fine player. In a victory, you're probably going to get somewhere around 60 plus points. Most of the time, it's not going to really be captain winning upside, so at 7K, just give me another AD carry. They're both okay and good options, especially when you look at pure points upside, they're going to be great options, but harder to prioritize them. Once again, you start to get to the teams that can actually knock off their opponents today. Beishang at 6,400 is probably in a victory going to be either if you get a victory today at a Team Wei, probably the highest scoring jungler in the slate will be Beishang, because Wei would have lost on the opposite side of that game at 7,400. Maybe XLB tops him, but Beishang is a huge scoring jungler. You could put Beishang in the captain spot. And if you get a victory, you can get like an 85 plus point day out of Beishang at just 6,400 and just build a ton of upside in the rest of your lineups. Right now, second on the slate out of all the starters in just damage percentage, you're getting 7.9 kills per or assists per contest, 3 kills per contest. Those are all top 3 on the slate at just 6,400. Team Wei is looking great once again. Other ones that do stand out as a slight underdog, you're going to actually do get Peanut looking really good for LGD. If you do think LGD upsets OMG today, and I'm going to have both sides of that game because it's a slight favorite at plus 179. I feel pretty decent about the chances there. You're going to get Peanut in victories starting 27 games so far, scoring a ton of points, mainly because Peanut is second on the slate in 3.6 kills per contest, picks up a ton of assists, really good damage percentage. So the jungler underdogs that I would actually like if you're trying to build lineups that way would be Beisheng 1, Peanut 2, and then probably Haro at the bottom for Rogue Warriors, but as a huge underdog, probably not going to get there. So like the underdog junglers a good amount. The favorite junglers I'll be getting to, but I'm just not going to prioritize them as much because of their price points. Like if I build out the rest of my lineup and junglers left in one other position, if I can swing it to get XLB or way into that lineup based on stacking, I'll get there, but it's definitely not going to be a priority for me. I will increase the randomness on them, so I will capture the ceilings of Wei XLB, but also capture the mega ceilings on Beisheng and Peanut as well. So those are spots that I think look pretty good right now on the surface. Finishing up with teams, I will point out once again that I do have the CSGO video up today. It's going to go up. It's already up, so depending on when you're watching this, even if it's like 1 or 2 p.m. East Coast time, and the noon slate has already started, there's a 3:32 game slate, so you could use those same projections and analysis for those players that are still playing on the 2-game slate. So teams, I'm going to have interest in all of the teams that are potentially going to win today, which is pretty much all of them. There are 12 teams in the slate. Only one of them is over a plus 180 underdog, and that is Rogue Warriors versus RNG. So LGD Gaming, Sandbox Gaming. Sandbox Gaming might be the other team that I just don't get to as much. They're an underdog that doesn't have a ton of kills upside in them, not a good KD, not a great win percentage against KT Rolster. So the teams that I'll have a good amount of in team slots is going to be Royal Navy Up, OMG, KT Rolster, E-Star, APK Prince, probably more than HLE. I'm liking APK Prince as the slight underdog in that matchup against HLE. I think that HLE is just terrible. They get 8.8 kills per contest. That's the least on the slate. Forcing APK Prince, who is not great, but an average team. So I like the APK Prince side of that one as a slight underdog. Team Wii for sure as well as an underdog. I mean, you're getting Team Wii right now being a team that has the second most kills in the slate, has the second best KDR in the slate. This is just first thing the team that has the best. This is just a really good spot for just upside in terms of points, kills for both sides of this. So thank you. Appreciate you tuning into this video. Be sure to check out my exclusive content for all esports stuff and more over on Patreon down below. And at the top of the description, you'll see a link that takes you over to how to get access to the League of Legends course that I made for totally free. You can check that out. Ask me any questions if you have any over on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Peace out, gang. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my at SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.